Most of the American people think that the war with Iran has nothing to do with their daily life. But they're completely wrong, because eventually every conflict in the Middle East, every war in the Middle East comes back to our daily lives, to our pockets, to the gas prices, to the grocery prices. And as more as I look at this war, I'm coming back to the same conclusion, that there is only one way to win this war, and we must win this war. But to understand how to win this war, we need to understand what is going on. So let's do it. First of all, what are we doing in the Middle East? What is our interest? Many of us thinking that Israel is the answer why we are in the Middle East, why we entered in a war with Iran. But they're completely wrong. There is one simple answer: the oil. Since the Industrial Revolution, all industrialized countries come into the Middle East for oil. And the reason is that the oil in the Middle East, the cheapest. It used to be the cheapest and still is the cheapest oil. The cost of extraction and the refinery in the Middle East is about $15 per barrel. Compared to our oil in the United States, it's about $55 per barrel. In Russia, it's about $40 per barrel. So anywhere you go, the oil in the Middle East, the key. So every time we are coming back to the Middle East, it's not because of the Iraq, Iran, Russia, Venezuela, or Israel. It's about the oil. All countries are depending on the oil in the Middle East. And of course, we have to transition from oil to green energy. But this transition not in 1 year, not in 10 years, not in 20 years. It's a slow, steady transition. But today, we depend greatly on the Middle East. And that's the reason why we are in the Middle East and entered in a war with Iran. But now we have to understand why Iran is fighting back, why Iran is not agreeing with us and dealing with us, trading with us. What is going on? What type of a country Iran is, and what type of the countries are in the world, so we can understand what is going on. There are two major types of the countries in the world. One is democratic countries, and the second is regime-driven countries. Example of democratic countries: the United States of America, Canada, Israel, Australia, most of the European countries. So those are the countries where people drive the agenda of the country. And because people in the democratic countries, they want better jobs, better freedom of speech, religion, and they want to travel. They want things for their sake. Opposite to democratic countries, the regime-driven countries like Russia, North Korea, Iran, China, Venezuela, those countries are driven for the sake of the regime. They don't care what's going on in the world. What they do care is preserving their regime. They care that their citizens will obey the regime and they will not destroy the regime from within. So regime must control own citizens, make them busy, make them believe that there are enemies, to be afraid from forces from outside, that they're in danger, that they have to unite under some idea of destruction. This is true for any regime country. I will give you an example. Let's start from Russia. Why Russia attacked Ukraine? There are many reasons, but most importantly, because Ukraine shares similar traditions, similar religion, and even they have relatives in Russia and Ukraine living in different places, and they all connected. So imagine if Ukraine start going Western way and will become successful and productive and happy, then people in Russia will be asking questions, why are we not living as good as people in Ukraine? We're similar people. And then it becomes a threat to regime in Russia. That's why Russia needs to destroy Ukraine. The other example, the war in Gaza. Why Hamas, when attacked Israel and took the hostages, they didn't stop the war because they don't care about own people. If they give up their weapons, then they release their control over Palestinian people in Gaza. That's why they didn't give up any hostages. They wanted to continue the war because their war is not about Palestinian people. Their war about own survival. The same thing is going on in Iran. Iranian regime is fighting to control own people. So we are fighting not the people in Iran. We are fighting a regime in Iran. Now we want to know who is benefiting from the war in Iran, who are our allies and who are our enemies. Many countries in the Middle East don't want any destruction anymore, but Russia is the very key point to the Middle East wars and problems. In the beginning, I told you that the oil price in Russia is about $40 per barrel. Any problem in the Middle East, any war, it's a benefit for Russia because Russian regime directly getting income from sale of oil. And the sales of oil in Russia is about 60 to 80% of the total budget, directly or indirectly. So Russia is highly depends on the chaos within the Middle East. Russia lives and dreams about chaos in the Middle East because every time there is a problem, the price of oil goes up and Russia is a direct beneficiary. Our oil is being sold by the companies. The United States doesn't directly benefit from the rising price of oil. So the biggest player who needs the chaos in the Middle East is Russia. What about China? China doesn't need a big problem in the Middle East. What it needs, sanctions against Iran and sanctions against Russia so they can buy cheap oil. Any other country like United States, Israel, Australia, New Zealand, they don't need any problem with the Middle East. They depend on the stability and the cheapest oil prices possible. And the Middle East is the key, is the heart of the cheapest and the biggest source of oil on our planet. Let's talk about Iran developing nuclear weaponry and long-range ballistic missiles. If Iran will have a nuclear weapon, we cannot do anything to Iran. Not that we want to do anything, not we want to go and start bombing or start attacking Iran. We want free trade, we want stability. But Iranian regime wants a problem because if there is no problem, the Iranian people look at Israel, where 20+% of people are Muslim Arabs. They live in peace with Jewish people. So if citizens of Iran will see that the people of other countries living better than they are, they will uprise against the regime of Iran. So Iranian regime is driving the problems around the Middle East with Houthis, with Hamas, with Hezbollah, trying to create disarray in the Middle East. And that's why we are connected to this disarray and problems, because it's destruct free trade and the price of oil. That's how we connected to all of these issues. And if Iran will have a nuclear weapon, then we cannot touch Iran, and they will keep putting problems in the Middle East, distracting the peace in the Middle East. And that's the reason we are in the Middle East now. And that's the reason we must win the war. And there is the only one way to win this war. And before I tell you what this is, I want to talk about something what is uncomfortable. Recently, as the United States, we lost our way. We started behaving as a regime countries. We attacked Venezuela. We talked harshly with Mexico, with Canada. We are destroying our relationship with NATO. We are destroying our relationship with Europe. We are talking about taking over Greenland. We are destroying all the trade partnership with the whole world. We put in blanket tariffs on other countries. It's unheard of. It's unproductive. This is crazy what is going on. We became a regime country without any clue for whose sake are we doing all of this. We are destroying ourselves. We are destroying the economy of our own and the economy of all other countries. And the other countries start driving away from us. They partying with us. They don't want to deal with us. Now, recently, a couple of days ago, our president went to China to beg the president of China to buy our soybeans. This is unprecedented. We are not respected anymore in the world because other countries start figuring out how to live without United States of America, how deploy big ticket items like airplanes, airships, other productions like technology, AI, and stuff like that. So we are isolating ourselves. For what reason? For whose sake we are doing that? Our economy cannot take it anymore. In different videos, I'm giving our economy about 5, maximum 10 years before it's gonna collapse. This is why this war must be won. And now let me explain you what is the only one way to win this war. To win this war is not about creating some rhetoric. It's not about bombing Iran. This war must be won differently. First, we need to define our goal. What is the winning for us? How do we know we won the war? And this is the key. So we need to define the winning of the war. Number one, we must prevent Iran from obtaining the nuclear weaponry. We must prevent Iran from obtaining ballistic missiles of a long range. Number two, we must stop Iran from funding its proxies so they will not destabilize the Middle East, like Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and so forth. We must enforce inspection and verification of this agreement. And we must offer the relief from the world sanctions against Iran in exchange for what I just stated to you. So Iran will be benefiting from this agreement. But how do we force Iran to do that? And it's not by bombing Iran. What we must do is the only one way. We must reach to the rest of the world. We must establish again our country as a leader of the free world, which includes we have to roll back all that crazy tariffs. We have to reintroduce ourselves that we are not enemies of the free trade. We must come back to NATO and tell that we are part of NATO. It means that we have to go against Russia, not with the bombs, but supporting Ukraine politically with the military supply, potentially free, because we are benefited from Ukraine winning this war. because Russia supports Iran, Iran supports Russia, Russia supports China, China supports Russia and Iran. So we need to support Ukraine and Europe against Russia because Europe is expecting us to do that. And we are not even close. We're just like, no, it's not our problem. And when we need help in Hormuz Strait, Europe says, why are you asking us to help you? You're not even bothering to help us. You're dealing with Putin, with Russia. What are you doing with Putin and Russia? Where are you? What type of a country the United States is? So we need to make a decision what country we are. Are we a regime country? Do we want Venezuela's oil? Are we gangsters, terrorists? And if we understand what type of a country we are, we will resolve everything. We have to join other democratic countries. We have to build again coalition of free world and forcing Iran to give up. If we put a blockade around Hormuz Strait, Iran cannot take that economic pain for a long, maximum half a year. So that's how we win the war against Iran. Please join this channel, like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Let's win this war properly.